They say betrayal doesn't start with a kiss, it starts with silence. And the silence in our home was deafening long before she finally admitted it. My name's Elliot, and I'm not here to cry about the past. I'm here to explain how I left with dignity and why exactly 1 year later she came back to my door with tears running down her face like rain. We were married 11 years. Rachel was my college sweetheart. I used to joke that she smiled like summer and lied like winter, cold, quiet, and creeping. I didn't know then how true that would become. The signs started small. Her phone was always face down. She laughed too hard at texts she wouldn't show me. And then she began calling me Eli again, the name she used when we first met, always when she wanted something or was hiding something. I don't know why, but hearing it felt off. Too sweet, too rehearsed. I didn't confront her. I observed. I listened. I kept my questions soft and my eyes open. The final clue came when I found a wine glass, lipstick stained, in the dishwasher one Monday morning. I don't drink wine and I'd been out of town all weekend. She said it was from a girls' night. She even smiled when she said it. That same summer smile. I didn't argue. I didn't accuse. I started preparing to leave. You see, I believe that when you uncover betrayal, the worst thing you can do is scream. Because screamers get labeled bitter. But silence? Silence makes people nervous. It makes them wonder what you know and how much more you might do with it. So, I started detaching. Quietly. Strategically. I began sleeping in the guest room, citing early meetings. I cooked my own meals. I stopped asking where she was going or when she'd be home. And the more indifferent I acted, the more nervous she became. She wasn't used to not being the center of my world. That made her sloppy. One night, I waited up. Just sitting on the back deck with a book, pretending to read. She came in at 1:43 a.m. I watched her heels in her hand, tiptoeing like a teenager sneaking back in. I didn't say a word. She didn't know I was watching. I waited 2 more weeks. I wanted to be sure. And then it happened. I opened her laptop when she forgot to log out. There it was, her full chat thread with a man named Chris, work gym. I read enough. No graphic stuff, but plenty of talk about emotional connections, how she felt alive with him, how I was too safe. It wasn't just emotional cheating. There were timestamps, dates. She had met him in our bed. On our sheets. I stood up. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I left the laptop open for her to find and walked out the front door with just a backpack. No dramatic goodbye. No slammed doors. Just peace. I stayed silent for a year. I disappeared off social media. Changed my number. Moved cities. Sold the house through a lawyer. Kept the divorce paperwork clean and uncontested. No spousal support. No revenge. I made it impossible for her to reach me. Until one morning, exactly 1 year later, I opened my front door and saw her. Rachel. Eyes puffy. Mascara down her cheeks. Her mouth trembling like she hadn't spoken in days. And before I could say a word, she whispered the words that made my stomach twist. Eli. I made a mistake. Please. And that's when everything unraveled. She stood there for what felt like forever. Her eyes were scanning my face like she was searching for the old version of me, the one who might have held her, who might have forgiven her, who might have believed this was just a bad dream that could be kissed away. But that man was gone, buried quietly the night I walked out with nothing but a backpack and the last scraps of my pride. I didn't say a word. I stepped aside. She hesitated, then walked in like a ghost returning to the scene of her own haunting. Everything in my apartment was quiet. Clean. Minimal. Not a trace of our old life. I'd erased her from my world so completely that she looked foreign in the space, like a memory that didn't belong anymore. She sat down without asking. Still crying. Still clinging to whatever she thought might still be between us. I'm not here to make excuses, she said. I thought you should hear everything from me. I stayed standing. Arms crossed. Watching. I wasn't ready to speak. I wasn't ready to give her anything, not even my words. She pulled out her phone and placed it on the table like a guilty offering. Everything's on here. All the messages. All the pictures. I never deleted anything. I couldn't. She swallowed hard. I thought he loved me. Chris. I thought. I was so sure he was the one. I blinked slowly. That name again. Chris. It was almost funny how one syllable could shatter so much. He left me, she said. About 3 months after you disappeared. Just vanished. Blocked me. Quit the job. I thought it was because he was afraid of the affair becoming public. But that wasn't it. I finally spoke. Then what was it? She looked down. He was married. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. I didn't react. Just waited. I could feel there was more. He told his wife everything. Every detail. He wanted to leave her and be with me. But she turned the tables. Sent the whole thing to HR, got him fired. Sued for infidelity under their prenup. Took everything. Still, I didn't flinch. Rachel looked up at me. He told her I was just some sad married woman looking for attention. That I meant nothing. That I didn't even compare to her. She wiped her face. That's when I realized. I wasn't special to him. I destroyed everything for someone who never even saw me as more than a game. I leaned against the wall. You knew what you were doing. I know. Her voice cracked. I know, Eli. And I hate myself for it. But that's not all. There it was. The shift in her tone. The one that told me we hadn't even gotten to the real reason she tracked me down after a full year of silence. I didn't come here for forgiveness, she whispered. I came here because I think someone's been watching me. For months. I get these letters. Photos. Someone slid a picture under my door of you. In this building. Standing on your balcony. My heart stopped. I think Chris's wife hired someone. Or maybe it's him. I don't know. But they're following me. I'm scared, Eli. I'm not just sorry. I'm terrified. I looked at her for a long time. Not out of concern. But because I knew exactly what she was talking about. Because I had those same photos. Sent to me. From someone else. And whoever was behind them, they weren't just following her. They were watching me too. I didn't respond right away. I just stared at the phone she'd placed on the table like it might start buzzing with another twisted surprise. She thought I'd be shocked, maybe even feel protective. But the truth was I'd known about the photos for months. What she didn't know, what no one knew, was that someone had been sending them to me long before she received her first one. The first envelope arrived 2 weeks after I moved out. No return address, just my name handwritten in bold black ink. Inside were 2 photos, one of Rachel walking out of Chris's apartment at night, another of her sitting across from him at a rooftop bar, laughing with her head tilted back like they didn't have a single care in the world. There was no note. No threat. Just the truth in full color. Then the second envelope came. This time, it was a photo of Rachel asleep in bed. My old hoodie clutched in her hands. The disturbing part? The angle. It wasn't taken by Chris. It was taken from outside the bedroom window. Someone had been watching her. Closely. At first, I thought maybe it was some cruel friend of Chris's. Or a coworker. But then I got the third envelope. That one had a photo of me. Walking out of my apartment building. Wearing the same clothes I had on when I checked the mail. That's when it hit me. Whoever was doing this wasn't targeting just Rachel. They were following both of us. And not just following, tracking. Studying. Sending photos at just the right time to make it clear this wasn't random. This was calculated. Back in the present, Rachel was watching me now. Her hands clenched. Her voice small. I think they know where you live. I don't know how they found out. I didn't tell anyone. I swear, Eli. I didn't accuse her. I didn't have to. I walked over to a drawer, opened it, and pulled out the envelopes I had received. I tossed them onto the table beside hers. Her eyes widened. You got them too? I nodded. Longer than you have. They started after I left. Her face drained of color. So, this isn't about me? I shook my head slowly. No, Rachel. This is about both of us. And it's been planned from the beginning. She went silent. But I could see her mind racing. And then something shifted in her expression. Like she remembered something but didn't want to say it out loud. Rachel, I said slowly. What aren't you telling me? She hesitated. Then reached into her bag and pulled out an old keychain. A tarnished gold compass, the kind you'd give a kid as a keepsake. I hadn't seen it in years. This belonged to Lily, she whispered. I froze. Lily. My sister. She died 5 years ago. Car accident. Hit and run. No suspects. No closure. Just pain. Rachel placed the compass on the table like it burned her hands. I found it in my mailbox last month. No note. Just this. I didn't want to say anything because I thought maybe it was just something you left behind. But now, I think it's connected. I sat down slowly. Everything in my chest was tight. My ears were ringing. My sister's name hadn't passed Rachel's lips in nearly 3 years. And now someone had brought her into this? I opened the back of the compass. The engraving was still there. Keep going. Even when you're lost. But now, scratched underneath it, barely visible unless you knew where to look, was something new. A date. A date that hadn't happened yet. 3 days from now. And suddenly everything turned cold. This wasn't just about betrayal anymore. This was about something far bigger. Someone was leading us somewhere. And I had no idea who they were, but they knew everything about us. The room felt like it had dropped 10 degrees. Rachel just stared at the compass like it was radioactive, like it might whisper something else if we listened close enough. But all I could see etched into that gold surface with shaky hands was the date. 3 days from now. A future timestamp on an object that had no business reappearing in either of our lives. What does it mean? She asked, her voice barely audible. I didn't answer. I was staring past her, back through time, dragging memories out of the dark. Lily had given me that compass when I enlisted. She told me even if we can't talk, you'll always know where home is. I carried it every day. Until the funeral. Until the night I threw it into the river because it hurt too much to hold something that belonged to someone who should have never died. But now here it was, not only intact but with a carved message pointing to a day that hadn't happened yet. Whoever sent it had gone to insane lengths not just to track us, but to make it personal. That's when I said something I didn't expect to say out loud. I don't think Lily died by accident. Rachel's eyes snapped to mine. What are you talking about? The hit and run, it always felt wrong. The reports never matched up. Her phone was never recovered. The security footage was corrupted. They buried it fast. Too fast. And I let them. She stood, her chair scraping back. Eli, are you saying what, that someone killed her on purpose? I shook my head, not because I disagreed, but because I wasn't sure yet how far I was willing to let my brain go. I'm saying someone wanted her gone. And now they want something from us. And we're going to find out what. For the next few hours, we worked in silence. We pulled out all the envelopes, spread every photo, note, timestamp across my kitchen table like a crime scene investigator would. Rachel dug through her phone and found a hidden folder of photos Chris had taken of her. Some weren't just personal, they were invasive. She didn't even know some of them existed. One was taken of her in a mirror, but in the reflection you could see a shadowy figure in the hallway watching. She gasped when she saw it. This wasn't me. I didn't take this. I leaned in. There was a logo on the bottom corner of the photo, barely visible. A watermark. I enhanced it using my laptop and a basic contrast tool. The letters ARS. That meant nothing to Rachel. But to me, those initials stabbed through me like a blade. Because years ago, when Lily was still alive, she'd worked for a company with those exact initials. Orem Risk Solutions. A private risk assessment firm based out of Baltimore. They were notorious for working behind closed doors with corporations, political entities, even foreign governments. She never talked about it. Said she wasn't allowed to. Just boring insurance stuff, she'd say. But now the watermark had returned on a photo tied to the man who ruined my marriage. I pulled out an old USB drive I hadn't touched in years. Lily's backup drive. She'd mailed it to me 2 days before her death. I never opened it. I didn't want anything to reopen the wound. But now I realized it might have been the only breadcrumb she left behind. I plugged it in. At first, nothing unusual. Vacation photos, work documents, normal sister stuff. But then there was a folder called static_red. It was password protected. Rachel leaned over. Try your birthday. I did. Nothing. Tried hers. Still nothing. Then I typed the phrase engraved in the compass. Even when you're lost. The folder opened instantly. Inside, dozens of files. Documents, videos, encrypted texts. And one video labeled for Eli. I clicked it. Lily appeared on screen. Her face pale, eyes frantic, voice shaking. If you're watching this, something went wrong. I never told you what I really did for a living because I thought it would protect you. But now I think I was wrong. They're watching everyone. I made a mistake. I took something evidence. I was going to leak it. I thought if I disappeared, maybe it would end. But if you've received this, they know you're next. She paused, looked down, then back up. You need to find the cabin. The one we stayed at when we were kids. You remember the trail. It's still there. What you'll find inside will answer everything. The video ended. I stared at the screen. The old cabin in Vermont. We'd only gone there once when I was 10. But I remembered the trail. The rock shaped like a bear. The collapsed shed. Every piece of that trip was burned into my brain like a faded map. Rachel looked at me, pale. Are we going? I nodded. Not because I wanted answers anymore, but because I finally understood. Someone killed my sister to bury something she found. And now they were watching me to make sure I didn't dig it up. We left the next morning at dawn, no questions, no second guessing. I didn't tell anyone we were going. Rachel shut off her phone. I took out the battery on mine. I wasn't being paranoid, I was being cautious. Because after everything that had surfaced in the last 24 hours, one thing had become crystal clear. Someone didn't want this truth found. And whatever my sister had discovered before her death, it was big enough to kill for. The drive to Vermont was long and quiet. Rachel didn't speak much, which was rare for her. She kept fidgeting, glancing at the side mirrors like she expected someone to be tailing us. I didn't blame her. I was doing the same. Every black SUV felt like a threat. Every rest stop a setup. By the time we reached the dirt road that led into the woods, the sun was already dipping behind the tree line. The cabin had no address. Just coordinates I jotted down from an old family photo that showed my dad holding a fishing pole with the GPS location written in faded pen on the back. He never said why. Maybe he was trying to remember where peace once lived. Or maybe he knew one day it would matter. We parked and hiked the rest of the way in, the trail overgrown but still visible if you knew what to look for. The trees seemed to lean in closer the deeper we went, like they were trying to listen. And then there it was. The cabin. Untouched, weather-worn, windows cracked but still intact. A deadbolt rusted shut on the front door. I pried it open. Dust and silence greeted us. The air smelled like pine needles and something older, memories maybe. Rachel shivered the second she stepped inside, and I understood why. This wasn't just a place from childhood anymore. It had become a vault, a waiting room for a secret too big to bury. We searched for hours. Pulled up old drawers, opened every creaking cabinet, moved furniture that hadn't shifted in decades. Nothing, until I noticed the rug. In the middle of the living room, oval, dusty, almost camouflaged into the wooden floor beneath it. I peeled it back and found a series of scratches, thin lines, almost like claw marks. Then I tapped the wood. Hollow. I grabbed a crowbar and pried the floorboard up. There was a compartment beneath it no larger than a suitcase. Inside was a metal box, the kind you'd expect to find buried in a spy thriller, not in a childhood getaway. I lifted it out, heart pounding. Rachel backed up slightly. You think this is what she meant? I nodded once. Only one way to find out. The box was locked, but not electronically. Just a simple key lock. The kind Lily would have never used without planting the key somewhere nearby. She believed in redundancy, safety through repetition. I checked the underside of the floorboard I'd just lifted. There it was, taped with medical gauze. The second the key clicked and the lid opened, I felt my pulse roar in my ears. Inside were files, real, printed, red-stamped documents. Dozens of them, some with names blacked out, others with official seals that sent a chill down my spine. CIA, Department of Defense, Orem Risk Solutions. And then I saw it. A photo of Chris, but not as a gym trainer, not in a suit, in tactical gear, holding a rifle, standing next to a black van with the words Orem Logistics Team 4 barely visible in the corner of the frame. Rachel gasped. Oh my God. I kept flipping. There were receipts, travel records, surveillance logs, all pointing to one disturbing reality. Chris wasn't some accidental affair partner. He was planted, assigned to Rachel, to me, to monitor, manipulate, and if necessary, eliminate. A memo sat at the bottom, dated 3 months before Lily's death. Subject line, Target EL9E, Carver threat level revised, sister breach confirmed. I stared at the classification number. My initials. My name. They had labeled me a threat. Eli, Rachel whispered, shaking. They were never after me. They were after you. And then I realized something I hadn't allowed myself to believe until that moment. Lily hadn't just died because she discovered something dangerous. She died because she tried to protect me. I slammed the box shut. We're leaving. Rachel looked confused. But this is what we came for. No, I said. This is bait. And then I saw the blinking red dot in the corner of the ceiling. A hidden camera. We weren't alone. We never had been. The camera's blinking red light was like a gunshot in the silence. One pulse, then another. Each blink told me the same thing. This wasn't just surveillance. It was live. Someone, somewhere, had been watching us open the box, react to its contents, and realize the truth. I slammed the lid shut and yanked the camera from the ceiling with my bare hands. But the damage was done. If we had hours before, now we had minutes. Back door, I said sharply, grabbing the metal box and stuffing it into my pack. Rachel hesitated. What if they're already out there? Then we don't go out the door. I led her to the far wall, to the place where the chimney shaft had cracked and let in just enough of the outside world. I remembered it from when we were kids. My dad always said if this place ever burns, it'll start right here. Now it might be our only escape route. We slipped out through the damaged panel, crawling beneath twisted wooden beams, ducking under low-hanging pine boughs until we were far enough to catch our breath. I kept my ears sharp, but there was nothing. And that was worse than hearing something. The absence of noise told me everything. They were waiting. We looped around to the trail, not the one we came from, but the one that had collapsed years ago, barely visible now. I remembered it from the one time Lily and I had snuck out to catch fireflies. She'd laughed so loud the owls scattered. We were 10 and fearless. Now I was 37 and hunted. We moved fast. Branches snapping beneath our boots, adrenaline keeping us silent, our breath shallow. I clutched the backpack like it had a beating heart in it. Rachel stumbled once, her ankle twisting in a root, but she didn't cry out. She just grit her teeth and kept going. For the first time in a long time, she didn't look like the woman who betrayed me. She looked like someone trying to survive. After 2 hours of hiking, we reached the base of the ridge where we'd parked. Or where we thought we parked. The car was gone. Vanished. Rachel let out a gasp that wasn't quite a scream. I felt the pit in my stomach deepen. We weren't just being watched, we were being guided. Herded. Whoever these people were, they wanted us off-grid. They didn't want us calling for help. They didn't want us going public. They wanted us to run out of options. But they'd miscalculated something. I had one more card to play. There's another way out, I told her. But it's not on the road. We hiked further west until we reached a small ranger station, a forgotten one. It hadn't been in operation since before I was born, but my father used to store fishing gear there. It was half collapsed now, overtaken by vines and moss, but the radio tower beside it was still intact. And I had the access code. I climbed up the rusted steps, forced open the door to the transmission room, and powered up the emergency line. Static poured from the speakers. For a second, I thought it was dead. Then a crackling voice came through. Channel open. Who is this? I gave them a code name I hadn't used in years, Lighthouse 09. It was something Lily made up when we were kids pretending to be spies. She used to say, if anything ever goes wrong, meet me at the lighthouse. It was dumb then, but not anymore. The voice on the other end paused. Then, coordinates? I gave them the only set I had left, burned into my mind since Lily's funeral. The ones from a notebook she left hidden in her piano bench. A second location. A fallback plan. I didn't even know what was there. But we were about to find out. The voice said, be there before midnight. You won't get a second shot. The line cut. No names. No confirmation. Just a cold warning. I climbed down. Rachel looked up at me, dirt on her face, exhaustion in her eyes. What now? We hike. For miles northwest. She stared like I was insane. In the dark? With no weapons? With this, I said, holding up the drive. And whatever's on it. She nodded. Let's go. We walked into the trees. But neither of us noticed the red dot blinking again, this time from the broken branch high above the ranger station. A drone, quiet as a heartbeat, watching from the trees. And somewhere far from the woods, in a sterile white room, a woman in a black blazer leaned forward, tapped her screen, and said to someone off camera. They found it. Initiate phase 2. We didn't stop. Not to eat. Not to rest. Not even when the temperature dropped below freezing and our legs felt like dead weight dragging through roots and gravel. Our minds were ahead of our bodies, chasing the meaning behind that phrase, phase 2. What the hell was phase 1, then? Were we in the middle of some operation that had begun long before we even knew it existed? And still, the most terrifying part wasn't the enemy. It was how much Lily had known. For miles took 4 hours. Rachel's ankle had swollen. I fashioned a brace from tree bark and twine, and she bit her lip raw just to keep from crying out. But she didn't quit. We moved through that forest like ghosts, barely speaking, just following the coordinates burned into the GPS screen of a hiking watch my sister had gifted me for my 30th birthday 5 years ago. She'd always been playing the long game. Around 11:40 p.m., we emerged onto a flat ridge, where a clearing opened up in the moonlight. And there it was, a lighthouse, in the middle of the woods. Not the kind that warns ships, not even a real lighthouse by architectural standards, but an old weather station tower retrofitted to look like one. The top was glass. Below it, a one-room structure built on concrete pillars. And the door was wide open. I froze. Rachel did too. The air was too still. Someone's already here, I said quietly. Rachel stepped back instinctively. Is it them? I shook my head. If it was them, we'd already be dead. I pulled out the metal box again. Something inside it felt warmer than before, like it had absorbed our fear and turned it into static. We moved in together step by step. The room was dimly lit by an old hanging lantern. Inside, a table. On it, 2 cups of coffee, still warm, and a voice from the shadows. You made it, brother. My heart stopped, because it wasn't a stranger standing there. It was Caleb, my brother, the brother I buried 6 years ago. Rachel screamed and backed into the wall. I stood there frozen, mouth open, blood draining from my face. He looked older, thinner, the same scar across his chin from the skateboarding accident when we were 12. Same eyes, same voice, alive, breathing. Sit down, he said calmly, motioning to the chairs. We don't have long. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. You died, I whispered. He smiled faintly. That's what I needed you to believe. He pulled out an envelope and slid it across the table. It was sealed in red wax with the Orem Risk Solutions logo. I faked it, he said, because the people I was working for were going to kill you next. I stared at him, the room spinning. They recruited me out of the military, he continued. Private intel firm. High-level clearance. I was young, smart, naive. I didn't know what I was stepping into, but Lily did. She figured it out. And when she tried to stop them, they silenced her. Rachel's face was pale. So why are you here now? Because someone inside Orem defected, and they've been helping me build a case. But it's not enough. Not without the files Lily left behind. The ones you just found. I dropped the backpack onto the table. They're in here. Caleb looked at it like it was radioactive. Then you've got more enemies than you realize. He turned to me. They want something back. Something that went missing 10 years ago. And they think you have it. I frowned. I don't know what you're talking about. You do. You just don't remember. He opened the envelope. Inside were photos. One of me, one of Rachel, and one I'd never seen before, of my parents, holding a child. But it wasn't me, and it wasn't Caleb. It was a girl, Lily. Only it wasn't our Lily. This girl had the same face but younger, different eyes. Rachel leaned over, confused. Wait, what is this? Caleb's face hardened. That's not your sister, Eli. That's the original. What? Caleb leaned in. The girl you knew as Lily was part of a government identity cover-up. A replacement. The real Lily was taken by Orem at age 7. For a genetics program that never officially existed. They embedded a decoy into your family. That girl grew up with you, loved you like a real sister, but she was never your sister. And when she tried to blow the whistle on the whole operation, they eliminated her. I stumbled back. You're saying, we grew up with a spy? Caleb looked pained. A decoy who grew a conscience. He looked at me dead on. And now they want the original back. But they think you found her first. Everything inside me twisted. The secrets, the false memories, the lies planted so deep they felt like truth. I stepped back, mouth dry. Where is she? He looked out toward the trees and said, closer than you think. Right then, the door burst open. Blinding lights, boots on the floor, voices yelling. And in the chaos, a woman stepped through. Black blazer, dark eyes, and behind her, someone with Lily's face. But she wasn't crying. She was smiling. The moment froze. The woman who looked like Lily stepped forward, her smile calm, almost gentle. But her eyes, they weren't the same. I knew now. She wasn't my sister. She never had been. But the memories we made, the nights we laughed, the compass she gave me, they were real. And so was the choice she'd made to protect me when the truth became too heavy to carry. The agents surrounded us, weapons drawn, orders flying. But Caleb stepped forward and said one word that stopped them cold. Release. Everything shifted. Orders were canceled. Weapons lowered. The woman in the black blazer nodded once. She looked at me. Not with hatred, but something closer to respect. You weren't supposed to survive this, she said. But you did, and that matters. They took the decoy Lily away, not in chains, quietly, peacefully. She turned once before leaving and whispered, "I'm sorry, Eli." And just like that, the storm passed. Caleb stayed behind. He wasn't running anymore. "They'll shut it all down now," he said. "Because you made too much noise." Rachel and I walked out of the woods the next morning as the sun rose. Not as a couple, but as survivors. We didn't get everything back, but we got something better. The truth. And the peace that comes after the silence is no longer a lie. The lighthouse faded behind us, but one thing stayed lit. The compass. Still pointing home.